Absolutely, and will that come at the price of some bans? And it absolutely does. No more Lucian for Faker. Let's go into a mano-a-mano when it comes to regular APs versus regular APs in the mid lane. But SKT, no change in their bans, just in the order with the Morgana and Rakan. And for the remainder of the draft, Zac, Gragas, Caitlyn, and Kalista still remain at the priority for many of these players, and now we get to see what SamSung gets to value. I don't think that Caitlyn had much effect. In fact, there's not a whole lot to draw from that game one as to what truly mattered, just because of how stomped mid lane got. So we might get to see, or we'll get to see them show their hands here as to what they think is valuable. I think the Gragas might be what they value, or the Kalista perhaps.
We are going to see another Cassiopeia ban. Take that away from Crown. Faker, known for his pocket big pick rather being League of Legends rather than any one or two champions. So I'm sure he'll be just fine if he has to play something that's not Galio, Lucian, or Cassiopeia.
So the Zac gets banned, and here's where last time we saw the Caitlyn be prioritized by a Freak of Freaks, but SKT got to play 2 games of Gragas on Peanut, so they will instead prioritize the Kalista, which does offer a lot of tools for Bang and Wolf in the bottom lane. We get to see them go with the Blitzcrank Kalista lane. He didn't have the greatest game at all. He was, in fact, feeding against Uro with his...
It was a funny game for him.
He was dying a lot off-screen, on-screen, with poor itemization. He was just... I mean, he even said that he would have bowed down and apologized to his teammates had he lost that game on that Kalista. So we need to see Bang step it up. We didn't get to see anything from him besides laning in that previous game. So we'll now finally get a glimpse out of his preparation when it comes to this heavily banned champion.
Taking away Wolf's Alistar right off the bat, we're going to see Core JJ stepping onto that pick. We did see the Gragas hovered here on the side of SKT, one of the massive picks still available that SamSung just decided not to go for. They want the jungle Jarvan once again for Haru, and they want to take Wolf's Alistar. So you see Peanut saying, no Nidalee, give me the Gragas. I'll be just fine on that pick.
It's so curious to see that Jarvan, out of all champions, be so prioritized from SamSung. This champion needs way more proactivity than what we saw in Game 1 out of SamSung, and most of all, they need lanes that have kill pressure. SKT was smart in drafting champions that are difficult to kill, and they will do so once again with the Taric. So now you have a difficult bottom lane to dive, a jungler that is hard to catch, and the Caitlyn falls through, and instead the Tristana gets prioritized again. So a champion that relentlessly pushes into the bottom lane and can defend for herself. So it allows the rest of SamSung to go for some dives. It lets them set up combos that might not be in range for the AD carry to participate in, so you don't have to worry about your carries, and you can play much more to your strength if you want to play around your solo lanes.
SKT T1 fighting is the message being spread throughout the arena for this team right now. We're not going to get to see Untara on the Gnar this time around. We'll take that away from him. Waiting on some other picks to be taken out of the pool. We do see Trundle banned once again by SKT in the second banning phase.
And a Rumble would make sense for SamSung here when you have the Alistar, the Jarvan, great combination. You can blind pick him here and it would be a denial against Untara, but QV hasn't played a single game of it, so either they ban it or they have to be aware that that might be what SKT will prioritize, as it already makes sense with their composition. So SamSung needs to be aware that this is a likely pick to come out from SKT if they don't snatch it themselves, which would be a questionable choice considering that it is Untara's most played and most successful champion at that, at an 8-2 record.
We do see the Taliyah banned away, and the other obvious pick for Crown is Orianna, and another big pick for Faker as well, so they need to pick it here in that 4th slot, which does mean that they're thinking about giving away this Maokai, as SKT is going to be hovering it. Do also have the Rumble available.
No way, Jose. I don't think SKT would truly pass up on the Rumble, or will they? It does make sense into Orianna, but...
They don't have the Rumble Alistar combination anymore, so deciding to go for the Maokai.
Yeah, so it is better when it comes to dealing with the Tristana and the Orianna. You can truly jump them.
No way! Okay, here we go!
Oh my god.
Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
He's telling Crown, I'm going to make you my dog today, because going with Fizz into Orianna, you know this matchup, he can just stomp it. But there's no wave clear on the side of SKT. This is all leaning onto Faker versus Crown.
Yeah.
And so Samsung responds with, we got to help this guy out, give him a Shen, try to keep him alive. But the good thing for him is that they did prioritize this champion in their 2 wins against the Rox Tigers. It was not Janair, as I mentioned earlier, it was against Rox, where they picked Ori over Caitlyn and over Kalista, and they found some success. So this might be the champion that Crown is truly good at right now. But man, against Fizz, if he is having any semblance of how poorly he played that game 1, this is going to be an even harder stomp.
This is a statement, you know, after all, as you were saying, there's no wave clear. It's kind of all in, trying to get Faker ahead on this assassin-type champion in the mid lane. And this is a surefire way to pick up 2 kills, 2 games in a row. Because if you take out Crown in a devastating loss again, I can't imagine that his mentality is going to be ready for game number 3. So they're saying, okay, let's see if Faker can do it again. Let's see if he can carry on an even harder champion on the Fizz up against Orianna in the mid lane and make it happen again, because we could probably run away with the series if we win once again with this kind of champion.
He is up against Cuvée onto the Shen, so Samsung's composition once again going for the late game scaling, where they have the Alistar go in, you have multiple ball carriers and protection for your 2 carry lineup. The danger of that composition is that when you're facing off against Faker's Fizz, or just these champions like Gragas, Maokai, that can single out individual targets, and you know they'll be focusing Crown, you remove most of the damage threats immediately, and all of a sudden you have no way of killing the tank. So they have to play with excellent positioning if they want to have a fighting chance when it comes to these 5v5s.
And players just getting all set up and ready to go. Looks like the game is finally loading up as all the issues are solved here. Jumping into the game, you see the focused players all in the booth, ready and waiting to start up game number 2. So let's do it. The players are on the Rift. Let us join them for game number 2. Here we go. Game number 2 is on the cards, and the camera zooms in onto another fantastic matchup we have between Faker and Crown, the Fizz versus the Orianna. These 2 are going to go at it as well.
Waiting on the cowbell as eagerly as we all are. We want to hear that beautiful sound. And when it comes to the mid lane, the most beautiful thing we'll have to see is Crown utilizing his shield. So he's got 3 at his disposal this time around. 1 is obviously in Cuvée, but he's got the barrier, he's got his command protect, and Faker does have teleport. So the important thing will be to keep track of the junglers for this mid lane, because Faker can't go for the 1v1 solo kill. He doesn't have a combat summoner, whereas Crown does. So as long as Peanut remains in sight, that they are aware of his path and how long it'll take for him to get to the mid lane, it should be all fine for Samsung. The danger comes at the level 6 with Fizz hitting the chum the waters. You've got the cask from Gragas that can just take out Orianna from seemingly any angle, and that can easily burst past Cuvé's shield. So vision will be imperative for Haru to keep track of Peanut, and if they can do so, Crown can get a nice CS lead in this lane that can just harass the melee champion down, as Orianna does to pretty much every melee.
So excited to see if Faker can pull it off, even with that teleport. Would be a huge message to not only Crown and the rest of Samsung, but to the rest of the other teams in LCK waiting, saying, hey, Faker is back. He's done it 2 games in a row where he's completely popped off and essentially run the game by himself, which definitely harkens back to when he first entered LCK and was this big rookie on campus, just owning FaZe left and right. Definitely a lot of excited fans waiting for his moments to return and to shine as he once did. He's always been very solid, but I love the fact that he's really popping off in a big way nowadays.
Oh, this play does not inspire confidence in me when we look at SamSung. Not sure what Haru's thinking there. The wave is clearly pushing in SamSung's favor when you have Tristana. The Callista's just waiting patiently for the wave to hit, so he might have been just waiting for a counter gank. But they also have to be aware of the route that Gragas started. Starting to the red side already. 3 times has Peanut started on that side as the Gragas, so maybe not enough scouting, looking at the waves, whatever the case might be, are wasting some time. That allows Peanut to get some advantages, and if they can just safely farm, hit that level 6, mid lane becomes a dangerous place for this Orianna.
Okay, they've spotted Haru here. Bang and Wolf, though, are not going to be able to just run into him and attempt to challenge. So some of the grumps stolen away by Haru. Taking another look into the mid lane, it looks like the CS is relatively even. Faker is staying even, but here comes Haru in the back, trying to get on top of Faker. There's the flash, is going to force that out. The Thunderlord's proc on the Faker means that he gets quite low, and will be looking to TP back into lane.
That's big though, because had that been the opposite and would it been Peanut trading his own flash for Crown, Crowns would have been in a very difficult situation when the level 6s start to hit. But now that he has his own flash and Faker does not, no longer do you have the outplay options of going for a flash playful trickster, a flash chum the waters. All of that goes out the table, and Crown can lane a little bit more safely. So SamSung doing all they can to make sure that this Orianna gets by, to help boost his morale just a little bit, to make sure that he can keep his composure for the rest of the series, because it'll take them a long time if they want to get out of the game 1 that they already find themselves at a deficit in.
Peanut coming in here and saying, hey, I want some of these Krugs back, but actually Haru steals most of them. I say steal, although they were his to begin with, but at least he is spotted out. No dive onto the top side or anything like that. Not too much damage between the Maokai and the Gragas anyway.
You would be a difficult judge to convince when it comes to robberies, Valdez.
Why is that?
You're calling it steal when it was him, it was his all along.
Oh, it's true. Well, Peanut trying to make the entire map his. Faker being an annoying little fish. Just pulling those minions in, making it so the wave is pushing into him as Crown is low on mana and needs to stick around for this wave. Wouldn't be nice for him to just freeze it there, Faker. You can see that Peanut was waiting nearby and they were thinking about a play, but Faker was not quite level 6 because of the way the wave was working.
The wave's too large, there's no need to stick around. You know that Crown is looking for a recall at that time. You can tell by the way that he's positioning in the lane, being careful with his summoners, utilizing the max.
Uh-oh.
They're going to go on Haru instead.
Here we go.
6 though.
Yeah, Shen coming out, but a lot of damage. Will they flash for this one? It doesn't look like it, as Haru will go extremely low, down to about 230 health, but will survive at the end of it.
You know, there was an opportunity there for both Peanut and Untara to flash and kill Haru. They definitely had enough damage, enough CC, and Haru's flash was down. But I have to imagine that they choose not to, because the game plan for SKT appears to just be focus on killing Crown. Kill the mid laners, utilize those flashes when you can get a higher value kill than just shutting down the Jarvan. Jarvan didn't find anything in the early game anyway, so he's practically redundant at this stage, and you just want to keep Crown down. If you can affect the morale of this player, you might have a better chance in the upcoming games, especially if we might get to see a side swap and maybe even Orianna be banned out too.
Yeah, definitely does seem to be the focus, and you can see that SamSung has read into this quite well. The right side of the mid lane is totally warded up with 3 wards, one of them being a control ward in the brush. They do have a ward on the left side of the lane as well. So they're trying to protect their buddy Crown. Haru sticking around for now as the Stand United is on cooldown for the time being. But that Tum of the Waters is nearing the end of its cooldown. So we'll see if Faker wants to make a play sometime soon.
Watch Untara on the map. He's looking for it, and they know that.
That ward just went down here, and a ping went down. They should know that this is a possibility, and Crown looks like he was able to read it. Gets out of there with his life.
It's important for Crown to play solely to the bottom side of the map so that he doesn't suffer from a roam from Untara. So vision is nice, but you also have to play around it.
The tension is high as already 8 minutes, 20 seconds into the game. Not a single kill, and the gold is dead even. Another control ward on the right side here for Samsung, as it looks like Haru is making his way towards mid, still looking to protect. We're getting a long look down here at the bot lane, as level 6 has been hit by everyone down here for some potential action. Here comes Peanut, could turn into a 2v2 if Haru wants to commit to a play. Looks like maybe SKT wants to commit as they engage onto Crown. Here we go. Stand United is not ready, but they see Haru, and they immediately disengage. They say, nope, we're not going to take this 2v2.
They opt out against it, and once again, these teams are playing on the razor's edge. There was another opportunity for Samsung to actually turn that onto Faker. The second he commits both Playful Trickster and his Urchin Strike, you can go onto the Fizz, who for about 5 seconds, 10 at most, did not have his flash, and Haru had his flash and Cataclysm, as well as Crown having his own Shockwave. So they could have opted to go onto this matchup, but they're just playing it safe. They don't want to risk these moments where you don't get much out of the kills. They need to get a little bit more out of it, but so far we have already seen the way that Faker is playing, the way that he's showing his hand, the way that you expect Fizz to be playing, which is you only go for the 1v1, or the chum the waters rather, when there's somebody nearby. You're not just going for a random all-in kill. You need to have somebody there to assist you, to minimize the chance of it going wrong, and to make sure that you secure a kill whenever possible. And speaking of securing, Ocean Dragon for Samsung, and the tables have turned when it comes to these objectives. Fire for SKT in Game 1, water for Samsung Game 2.
Yeah, and you could say, hey, we would love to have the Infernal Drake, but at least that Ocean Drake at this point in the game with no kills and no big pressure in any of the lanes and an extended laning phase it's not going to be too bad for Samsung at this point in time. They'll definitely offer a little bit more sustainability for Crown in the mid lane. Can't just lose trades over and over to a Fizz and be forced out or anything like that. Okay, we have an engage down here. That Cosmic Radiance almost doesn't get off, but at the last second, with that Ignite ticking, Bang is saved.
Close call for Bang, and this is the worry that I had about them in Game 1, where in their matchup against Afrika, they didn't get pressured at all in the bottom lane. They were up against Twitch with Targons and a Janna, so a lane built to lose. And then Game 2, when they're facing off against the Caitlyn Thresh, they actually did end up arguably losing that lane. They found themselves dying a couple of times on some kills. And in the meantime, nothing's going to happen to the mid lane, but that pressure to the bottom lane is what I was worried about for Bang. Were they going to be up to par when it comes to dealing with a lane that can offer a bit more pressure than lanes that are built to lose? Well, they've been pushed in Game 1. They did lose most of the turret HP on their own, so you could say that they are struggling a bit when it comes to the bottom side of the map, but we didn't get to see much team play besides vision control from SKT in Game 1 because of how much happened in the mid lane.
And you can see that Peanut's hanging around, Untara's continuously rotating around. There are now 2 control wards for SKT on the left side of the mid lane, trying to make this Maokai roam happen with all of the CC he has in his kit. But so far, still no first blood. 12 minutes into this one. Crown coming in here. You see Haru is nearby. Jump the Waters is going to land. Will they go onto it? The flash is burned already out of Crown. And with that barrier up and getting the summoner, SKT once again decide not to go for it.
And even though with the barrier and the Stand United, you could say that Crown would have lived and wouldn't have to use his flash. The fact that they saw Wolf coming in from the river means that that would be one more layer of crowd control being added onto the Orianna. So it would have essentially been a 3-on-1. So there's no need to risk that play. Burns his summoner wisely, and at least it's a change from game 1 where he was so hesitant in utilizing them. So he keeps his hide scot-free and lives to see another day, maintaining even CS against Fizz.
SamSung going for a group invade towards that red buff. Is spotted out, but SKT, again, they just let them do it. SamSung decides to disengage, even with the stand united and everything available. Deciding they don't want to take the fight deep into their enemy's red side jungle just yet.
Ooh, curious to see that Haru has actually gone with a Warrior's enchantment on the Jarvan. Typically you see the Cinderhulk coming through, but with Warriors, I'm still floundered at what the hell is going on, because Jarvan's not making any early plays, not like he has many places to do so. So you would have expected a Cinderhulk to come out from him. It synergizes well with his kit. He wants to go in, he gets to be a ball carrier, but being a damage dealer here, not really necessary. You've got Tristana and Orianna. The composition is a 2-man threat. It's not a bad comp, you just have to execute it differently than most, and the Tristana push will once again result in bottom lane suffering most of the HP early, and at least now SamSung can convert into a first brick.
Yeah, with that first brick, they do pick up a nice gold lead for their team, about 600 ahead at this point. Also picking up the first dragon, and going up against this Fizz that hasn't been fed at all. They should be pretty happy with how the game is going so far. See, Tristana picks up that Infinity Edge, so she's going to begin critting like a truck.
So if you go back to last year's playoff run and Gauntlet as well, and you look at SamSung specifically, at the time their starter support was Ray, and they weren't finding much success for him. For the most of the display, it was lackluster from SamSung overall, but when CoreJJ came in, the entire morale shifted of the team, and they found their stride and continued to improve throughout the Worlds tournament to make it to the finals. And that glimmer of hope that comes from the bottom lane seems to be reappearing once again in SamSung, where they can find some gold, some pressure into the bottom side of the map. And it's at the hands of Ruler and CoreJJ, a lane that has been thriving for a bit of a year now. And they might be able to transition when it comes to the team fights. We have yet to see them go for it. Ruler obviously thinks that Tristana is a great champion, but we need to see him team fight with it and not get two-shot by Lucian.
Well, he's been fantastic on other AD carries, especially the Varus. AD carry that doesn't have an escape, so I'm really excited to see what he can do with the range that's even greater than the Varus, but also the escape that Tristana does offer on this champion. An insane push coming out of SamSung here. They're going to pick up another turret. Some of the Waters even used to try to clean up that wave, but it was unsuccessful at the end of it all. So SKT losing another one, SamSung 2 turrets ahead.
That's exactly what I was saying was going to be the danger for SKT. They don't have wave clear. Their only wave clear is going for an engage. They need fights. They need to get ahead early onto the Fizz. And the fact that SamSung was able to deter the multiple attempts onto Crown means that with Ruler and CoreJJ getting their advantages into the bottom side of the map, they can rotate to mid, get that turret down, and now 2 dragons on their advantage, and it looks like a reverse of game 1 with a controlled approach from SamSung, recognizing what needs to happen on the map for their composition to succeed. They're executing it well, and the dragons are helping them too, because just as game 1, the third one is now a mountain, but this time with double oceans, it means that they can fight against SKT, survive the engage, and then go back onto the map and look for the major objectives right after, which now happens to be the top lane, turret, and eventually the Baron.
Yeah, they're definitely going to have some fantastic sieging potential, especially against the lack of wave clear that SKT does have. They can stick around for a very long time. They can draw out these fights for a sick period of time. No doubt they will be looking to use that. Ruler looking perhaps for a rapid-fire cannon next. So wants to accelerate the range at which this Tristana can begin to attack. The Rift Herald is going to be used down here in the bottom side, as Shen was not in position. Faker was down here, getting it low enough. That should be one turret at least going over to SKT.
So if SKT wants to have pressure onto this matchup, it's going to have to come at the hands of helping out Faker. FaZe has the most kill pressure right now. If you go help out Kalista, you will be met by a Stand United, and he's already built a Titanic Hydra, which, while he can do damage, it's not the tankiest when it comes to surviving these skirmishes. So instead, he will just have to back off, respect the damage from SKT, and a great use of Rift Herald turns into 2 towers for SKT. Another gold lead remains even. So we got a great game on our hands when it comes to looking at pressure, understanding what objectives to trade, and looking at the win conditions for each other and respecting them as such.
Yeah, SKT extremely happy to take that tier 2 turret, especially before the Baron is even off the map. Yeah, sure, give away that top tier 1 to SamSung. You already got a nice lane to push in down in the bottom side. So, gonna be nice there. The gold lead you were talking about, it's extremely even at this point after that trade. Just about 100 gold ahead for Samsung. Pretty negligible at this point in time. Still waiting for this Fizz to pop off. We saw the Illusion be incredibly impressive in game number 1 with the lead Faker could get, but so far the defensive play out of Samsung did not net any big farming potential for Faker against any of these champions.
It did not, but look at what ends up happening. And SKT might choose not to go for this lane assignment, but I think it would be a mistake. If they assign Faker to the top side of the map, the next objective is Baron. So you have a higher chance of getting a kill or getting a pick off if you have the Fizz in an area that is going to be highly contested. So by Faker being topside and the Maokai to the bottom lane in a lane that no longer needs to care about pushing for a tower, not only do you open yourself up to more effective teleport plays because you don't care about what happens to the bottom side of the map, but you have a higher chance of finding a kill, as we see right now, just Alistar roaming in, but the Tristana that is just about to face check a brush. There was a Fizz right there. That could have been a dead Tristana.
Ruler playing with fire already, even though she's only level 11 at this point. We see Tristana's loving to play with fire a little bit later on in the game as that champion. And so they have sent Maokai down into the bottom side. Kive is going to go ahead and mirror him, so we will have this 4v4 situation with the help of Stand United for Kive to get into these fights very quickly. Samsung with a lot of control around the Baron. They have triple control wards right now. One in the Baron pit, one around mid, and one towards the top side of blue buff here. And just looking to slowly push this one in, see if they can get SKT to make a mistake, get a pick off. The blue is actually taken away here by Haru. Nicely done.
Samsung has the advantage in these moments when there is no ward to be TP'd behind. They can easily play the fights out in a straight line, and then you have Stand United to help them out as well. The problem comes at pressuring the Barons. Sure, you control the Baron side right now, but you don't actually have a Baron threat, so SKT doesn't feel completely compelled to go in there, face check, and try to stop Samsung from starting any Baron opportunities, and instead they'll find themselves a fight in mid.
Whoa, they're going super deep for Ruler, but Bang oversteps his boundaries. First blood at 21 minutes into the game. As Bang, he just took one step too far, and that meant his life.
I think that's exactly what I was suspecting was going to come out of Bang. Game 1 against Afrika was basically Afrika handing them a freebie of a lane. Game 2, he got punished big time, and now once again, overeager on the Kalista gets popped right away. Not sure why the hell he was doing that. Ends up giving up first blood into the worst champion possible, because Tristana is going to be significantly more difficult to kill than Crown, who's not only having a rough series so far, but is much easier to kill in the immobile Orianna.
Definitely a very unfortunate series of events there for SKT. They're going to be playing from behind with this unfed Fizz, who is still struggling to find a pick on this map. We'll see if they can get any objectives after Samsung did push on in the mid lane for quite a long time. Doesn't look like it. even though that Mountain Drake is coming up. Crown is going to stay on the map and push up in the top side.
Oh, but this is big. The fact that SKT can walk away with the Mountain Dragon means that Samsung's plans are stalled out even further. Now the control that they had on Baron matters a whole lot less because they can't take it. It's going to be SKT that can actually take down the Baron much faster with the Bladed Kalista, with the tanks and the Fizz. So this Dragon has huge implications on the game length of this game, as now Samsung, sure, they might be in control, they have the gold lead, they have pressure, they've got wave clear, a strong composition on the 5v5, but they don't have the tools to take down a Baron quickly. They still rely on SKT being massively out of position, and that's just not going to do them any good. And we're going to look again at what happened here. They popped the blade, but they don't have any vision, and the fact that they both commit onto this, and Peanut is lucky that he doesn't get hit by the headbutt pulverized from Core JJ as well. Otherwise, it could have been more people dying on the side of SKT.
Ruler, the juiciest bait right now for SKT. They're looking to make a dive play onto this Tristana, ever slippery in this one. They do push in as a team of 5 and do successfully get down some nice vision around this area. But Samsung quickly going to retake back control and try to clear out any of these wards that were just pushed down. There was that very important one that was put in that brush on the red side that could be a nice TP ward for Untara if any big fight does come out in the meantime. They're looking to come from behind. Here comes Peanut, but he's going to take a bunch of damage. Already down to half health. He's alone. There's the shockwave, and he gets caught out going 1v3, and there's the jungler going down.
Oh, I'm so happy to see that the analysis has come through, that SKT, their mistakes that were made in Africa, a team that was unable to punish, is happening again at the hands of Samsung. They see the opportunities of Peanut being by himself, and they pull the trigger once more. But hey, they don't have tools to do the Baron. It's still too early. The items aren't quite there, so they're okay with just controlling the area and starting to build more and more gold on their side. So they just wait to see if anybody else decides to go ahead and face check the river, as it's starting to look like the Ganges now with how many deaths are happening.
Ooh. Faker hopping away from that one. At least on this Fizz, it will be extremely hard to lock him down, even with all of that hard engage that Samsung does have. So they have a decently reliable way to push in with one of their champions and get some vision down to see if this Baron is just being baited or actually started.
The worries will come through when Samsung have one more item under their belt. So Tristana already has it, but they still need Orianna to pack one more before Baron truly becomes a real threat that SKT have to be worried about, to the point that it will call for them to face check the brushes. And they only have one scrying orb. Faker's going with the regular trinket so that he can teleport for himself. He's got some more vision on his split push, which means that the second that trinket goes down, if they don't have proper vision control or a setup to contest, Samsung can take full advantage of that and execute whoever from SKT decides to be brave enough to face check.
Look at the ping. Here we go. The TP from behind. This is their moment to make a play happen. Here come Faker and Untara from the left side. Will they get Ruler? No. That's going to go wide. And there's the Stand United. They cannot get onto Ruler. Now Untara's all alone. Where's the support? He's all alone. He went too far. And down goes Untara. A failed teleport gank with both of the teleports from SKT.
The audible from Samsung was great there. I don't think they're going to be able to get Faker quite right, but their call to pull towards the left side of the map was excellent. They recognized that the double TP came through, just run together, stick as a unit, force SKT to take a fight that was just too forced. And because Untara flashes in, you forget that Ruler can always rocket jump out of these sticky situations. Pulls Maokai deep into the team, and now they're going to go for the Baron start. There is Alistar to worry about. There is no Ren this time around, but if they can just keep Peanut out, this should be Samsung's.
That's the play. They're relying on Core JJ to keep him out, and the Baron is already incredibly low. That's going to be enough CC to keep Peanut out, and there's the Baron going over to Samsung. Now with the Baron on their side, 5,000 gold ahead, and a fed Tristana, we're looking at a pretty good game here for Samsung.
And it's only going to get better from them. Now that the composition can simply group as 5, they should be able to push straight down the mid lane and take an inhibitor. There is no wave queue. The teleports were committed as 2. No longer do they have a flank option, so we're going to look at this one once more. It's 4-on-4 right now, and the second the fish misses, Untara decides to flash in, and that is his end because Jarvan can just follow through. And without your main tank being there, there's nobody else to go for this one. They didn't suffer any damage. The honeydew or the honey fruit was enough to keep everybody healthy enough, and this is the danger of the composition. You don't snowball early. This is what's going to happen time and time again.
Here we go, we got another engage, this time a little bit better as there's not as much defense for Ruler. Trying to get near enough for that cast. Will he go for it? There's the flash. Just trying to bait it out there. At least they do get that summoner at this point.
Okay, Samsung need to reassess what they're doing. They're splitting themselves up to the bottom side, and hell, they're prioritizing vision around the dragon. This Baron should be turrets. This Baron should be base turrets. They should not be the ones losing a tower. So a misuse of the Baron, and we might be seeing like a negative Baron power play here as a second-tier turret is being assaulted from SKT. It's going to be a base race, but Tristana has turrets. You're going to base race Tristana? I don't know about this one.
They're going home. Samsung, they decide, take the 2 turrets and go back home and try to defend, but here we go. They're going for the inhibitor, SKT. Will they get it? It's going to be close. A couple more hits will do it, and there it is. Not enough carry, not enough damage around here. Meanwhile, Crown and Ruler stayed home. The rest of Samsung will try to stop these backs. Here comes Crown and Ruler. They're going to get the inhibitor. Will they continue to push? Yes, they will. They're going for that turret, and there's Faker. It looks like he will get the recall. That's extremely important, but he's the only one right now. Can he go 1v2 is the real question. Still the Banshee's available on Crown, but here's the collapse from SKT. Down goes the Fizz, but Crown should be following up. There's the Cosmic Radiance. Ruler's still alive somehow, some way. He is taken out in the end. SKT, they do get back here. Bang is still very, very much protected. It doesn't look like they want to go full on with the 4v4 just yet. They hold on to their base just barely. That was a close one.
Looks like they might be fancying going further. I sure hope not. Nope, they are getting out, and they just got straight up outplayed because SKT should not have gotten anything from not having Baron, but they somehow get an inhibitor, and at the cost of a Nexus turret, that doesn't mean anything at this stage in the game. 1-1 fight is enough to end the game for any one of these teams, so it doesn't matter that they lost that tower. They can trade inhibitors, and no longer does the Baron matter for Samsung. And hell, they even get a Mountain Dragon out of all of this, so Samsung's decision to control the river without Dragon even being alive, hell, even prioritizing Dragon was a fatal mistake. Their positioning and split call of going to the bottom side and defending mid lane was so off that it ended up costing them dearly, and SKT still have a fighting chance in this game. It now means that the teleports will be their biggest asset. They need to go for a double teleport once again, execute onto the carries, and Ruler doesn't have flash anymore, so he might become the new priority.
If they can get onto Ruler and keep Bang safe, because as it seems right now, everything that Samsung has is just used to keep Ruler safe. And that means that Bang is essentially given free reign at this point in time. He picked up a Bloodthirster on top of that Blade of the Rune King, so he's going to have some pretty sick lifesteal. And we could see this Kalista also get out of control if the game does get late enough and she has enough space. Will it be time for Bang to redeem himself on this champion is what I'm wondering right now.
He's got lifesteal, but there's a lot of armor already on Samsung, so he needs that armor penetration item, which puts him at a disadvantage when dealing with Crown. So Bang's positioning will have to be excellent. It has been suspect for multiple games so far, but if he can pick it up here, the purchase can be worthwhile, as it does offer that tiny little shield to help him out. And you can already see what SKT's thinking with Faker waiting in the base, trying to get a TP in.
Yeah, trying to pull that off. Attempting to collapse onto the Shen. Never really going to work out unless Kive makes a big positioning mistake. Attempting to wave clear with this composition is kind of hilarious right now for SKT. They essentially have Bang and Peanut. A little bit of Maokai, I suppose, as Faker kind of just awkwardly sits in the back. He'll be set to clear up the bottom wave by himself. At least he can do that if there's no pressure. But that means that Samsung looking for a rotation up into the top side with Faker very far away. There's the poke coming down, and that turret getting extremely low. SKT with no attempt here to go for an engage, so SamSung slowly picking away at the space.
Here's the danger with SamSung rotating top. They are unaware of the wards that SKT have placed. There's one at the Wolf camp, another one in the lane. So if Samsung were to commit fully on the top side of the map, they would likely find themselves with somebody in their backside. They finally cleared out the vision, but still, this is the ward that remains. If Samsung go for this rotation, again, it will be the cue for SKT to go for an engage. We see Faker looking for a flank, but he does get pinged out.
Yeah, they see him. But again, just a little move like that means that Samsung backs off for just one more wave. So SKT is definitely buying some time for themselves. And here's that rotation once again you were talking about.
This is the cue for SKT. This is where they're going to go for it.
Are they going to make an attempt to stop the push at this wave? Looks like they'll wait for now. Samsung with a lot of respect for that play you were talking about. They decide not to push on in. But that means that Samsung as a team is looking to back off as the Baron is 30 seconds away from spawning. They want to make sure they get all their items ready to go. Righteous Glory picked up onto Alistair and a Gargoyle Stone Plate for Shen. Definitely going to be a couple of big items for them in the upcoming Baron teamfight.
They have to retreat. The Baron is way too high with the death timers being equal. So if somebody were to get picked up, that team would likely lose the Baron, lose pressure as now inhibitors have already been exposed for both teams. So it's important that they retreat, that they play it safe, and they find themselves in that position where there's a less likely chance that they get TP'd onto. So they do lose the Scuttle Crab, which isn't the greatest thing for Samsung to fight against, but at least there is no ward behind them for them to be TP'd on. So the fights become a little bit easier for Samsung now that they're going to have control over the Baron side, but they still have to be well aware of where to sweep and what to expect from SKT.
This game is surprisingly very close at this point in time. I feel like one mistake out of Samsung and SKT can make it work. One mistake out of SKT and Samsung could close the game out. So it really is going to come down to this next big team fight around the Baron. If Samsung pick up the Baron buff, you have to think that with the empty lane down on the bottom side with just the open inhibitor as well as a very weak top lane turret, they definitely could make a case to end the game or at least get a couple of inhibitors after this one.
Absolutely. A Baron and some kills is going to be the game, but Samsung needs to keep SKT pushed in. That will prevent them from getting deep vision. No deep vision means no TPs. They have to fight in a straight line, which is exactly what they want, so that the formation has your 3 tanks in the front and your 2 carries in the back line, dealing damage and protecting each other.
Faker actually got the Banshee's Veil off of Crown, and you can see that we're looking for a play. Ruler has the escape, Crown does not. He will have his flash, but if they could lock him down with some hard CC, that was pretty close, but not close enough. They're going to be able to wave there, but look at the poke out of Ruler. He takes out that turret, easy peasy, and now they're going for this inhibitor. The attack speed is coming in, down to about half health. Looking to try to get this one down, and it looks like SKT will give it up.
That fish was basically like a game loss for SKT. That was a big mistake from Faker. They have a control ward in the back. They could have used that to TP, but the second that Chum the Water goes off, Samsung's no longer scared. They know that Fizz's dive is significantly weaker. The CC's not going to be there. Tristana can play up, and that mistake from Faker might have just cost them a chance to go for a fight and might have cost them the entire game.
You can see how much they want to defend this. That stun rather was so close to hitting Ruler from the Taric. Wolf almost making a game-changing play. But again, another missed CC means that this time Samsung will get their second inhibitor that they so dearly wanted. And now they'll make a play towards that Baron.
They get lucky that SKT has some big mishaps. But now the Elder Dragon is up, and so is Baron. This is an opportunity for these teams to prioritize objectives. Baron is obviously the most important one here, so I expect both of them to fight for a Chum.
It hit Crown! It got onto Crown! There's that standing item! baited into the cast, but will he go down? The shield to the heels, and the big shockwave right before that Cosmic Radiance. But here's Faker trying to get on Crown. He gets him! He gets Crown! Now Haru is getting extremely low. Bang is still available, but so is Ruler. It's the battle of the 80 carries right now. CoreJJ, he's getting low. There's the Ren. Ruler, he can't do enough damage. SKT, they're too tanky. Now Cuvee is going to be left all alone. SKT, they're turning this one around. They're going to get another kill. Cuvee's not even going to stick around in this one. He's going to try to make it out with his life. SKT, can they pick up another kill? It doesn't look like it. They just get 2 as Cuvee sticks alive, and now they're moving towards the Baron.
Oh, at the last possible second, Faker finds Crown, and that is huge. That's exactly the weakness of these 2 carry compositions. One man goes down, and they don't have a chance. There's Ren to secure this, but they're turning off.
That stun misses, but Ruler forced to flash away. He pulls him off of the Baron, but Ruler doesn't have an escape. Will it matter, though? Here comes Bang on in, and he will do the damage. The rest of his team helping him out dearly. They pick up another 2 kills, and that should be the Baron for SKT.
And that Baron is huge. What is SamSung thinking going into that moment? Not respecting that SKT could always turn around and go onto Ruler, and now the Baron will be theirs. Are they gonna go donate themselves once again?
Crown looking for the miracle shockwave. Can he get it? There's the cast, there's the rend. It comes out at nearly the same time as the shockwave. But Bang with enough rend stacks will pick up that Baron. And that is huge. SKT coming back in this one after losing 2 inhibitors. They will even get the top tier 1 crumbs.
It was so close to being closed out from SKT. Let's take another look at the fish. So,
fish.
They separate themselves. They leave Crown behind. Number 1 rule, if you're tanks and running these compositions, tanks must escort the carries out of position. And he single-handedly just takes down Crown. Nobody else was doing much against him. And the second that he's out, you can't go on to Bang. The bodies are way too big for our lone Tristana to deal with them. And just look at how much damage he does to Maokai. If you think there's no damage happening, you're right, because he just healed himself through another auto, so he stays alive, and it just shows how important this is. And the biggest thing about it is that now both flashes of the carries are down. Everybody has used their flash except Cuve's, but we have yet to see some crazy antics with the taunt flash so far. And now that Elder is being contested, Crown and the rest of SamSung can still take a fight 5-on-5, but without summoners, the peel game has to be there.
These fights are getting out of control, man. This is going down to the wire already in game number 2. We talked about the mentality of Crown. I sure hope he's not kicking himself for being picked out there. I think that was just a beautiful play by Faker, but also a mistake by the team of SamSung to not stick together as 5. And so with this Baron, SKT looking to make a play around the Elder Drake, looking to get some vision, but they're splitting up themselves. Got to stick together as a team. Faker with this TP up is going to be pushing the top lane and looking for a TP behind.
That's not a full ward behind them. That's just a scrying orb. So SamSung can take this and have a positional advantage. And with Maokai showing into the bottom side, it appears that SKT will simply be using the Baron to stall out this game.
They have a chance here with Peanut if he wants to go for this Smite steal, but here's CoreJJ to headbutt him out. Will they get it down? Nice play here by CoreJJ. They are going to get that Elder Drake. Lots of Ren stacks onto the Alistar, and the TP even coming in, but I mean, it's an Alistar with his ult up. You're not going to be killing this guy.
Every decision matters from this point on. Again, a 1 fight, now that the objectives are down, means that the only thing you can take is the base. SKT's not going to fight SamSung, though. They do have the Elder, so for 2 more minutes, we're not going to see much action onto the map. So we'll have to wait for both Dragon and Baron to wear off before we see anybody truly leaving their comfort zone and start fishing for more.
Fishing indeed, as we've already seen 1 big, beautiful fish out of Faker. Can he make another one happen? Had a couple of mishaps on the Fizz ability, but definitely a key engage point for SKT as a team as a whole.
And remember the way that Chum the Waters works. It'll stick to the first champion there. So if you play the formation right, and you've got Alistar, Jarvan, and Shen if you decide to bring him along with you, it should never actually land in one of the carries as long as there's somebody body blocking. Almost like playing point guard in basketball against the Fizz. Nobody should be able to hit these carries. There should always be somebody between the carries and the damage dealers from SKT.
Yeah, you're exactly right, and it looks like that's the play for them here. Although Ruler is a little bit off to the side. Crown is okay to sit behind his linebackers. Faker, though, on the right side, you can see he's looking for the angle. He is spotted out here as the slow push continues onto this inhibitor. The ball always mirroring where Faker does go. Down goes the first inhibitor. As a nice push does come out. The Elder Drake buff is still available here for Samsung. And SKT did lose their Baron buff, so don't want to take any fights just yet. They're happy to let that one inhibitor go down.
Just because it's mid lane, it's easier to defend. They've already defended against multiple inhibitors, but flashes are back up, which means that this next fight will be hectic. Everybody will have to burn everything. It's common in Korea for you to be looking at your replays, look at fights, and if your summoners aren't burned, you're going to get flamed by your coach. Be like, you got to burn your summoners. You absolutely must use them. But Faker's on the backside. We're about to get a fight.
He's behind him. Still the Banshee's Veil available here for Crown. Scrying Orb comes out, and the fish hits Alistar. That's not who they want. An easy shield brings him to safety. The re-engage here from Samsung. They're looking for it, but it doesn't look like they'll get there in time. Rageous Glories are burned on both sides. Faker still remains on the top side. You can see the cooldown of that Chum the Waters is still very low. It's already about halfway through. So they're looking for the re-engage, attempting to keep Samsung away from this inhibitor for as long as possible.
That is just ludicrous. It's basically one per wave when he can go in. He's looking for it again, like 3 seconds till it's back up.
They got to get Crown's Banshee's Veil. If they can get that and land it onto Crown, he might be a dead fish out of water once again. We'll see if he can make it work. Chum the Waters is up. They're going to use this. They want to get Crown. He's going to not block into the fish. It threads the needle, and it finds Crown in the bag. Can they get it? The shockwave is good, but Crown is getting low. They're still trying to get onto him. Down he goes. Bang all alone. It's going to be taking out the rest of this team. Down goes the Tristana. Down will go the Alistar. And down will go the rest of Samsung. Only Haru will be left alive. That was the engage that SKT needed.
But do they have enough to close out? I'm not sure they do. They're so deep inside their base. Inhibitor is still up. Pings are going down. 40 seconds on everybody from SKT, barring Cuvee. Pings are going down. I think that's just going to yield a Baron, and we're still going to go longer on this game.
This game isn't over yet, ladies and gentlemen. So, take a look at this fight.
Yeah, just as you say, they thread the needle. So the ultimate for Muntara is the sick play. It pops the bench, but look at this one. He has to position behind the Jarvan. They need to be helping each other out. But there is no Zhonya's. There's only a Banshee, so he just can't stay alive. Everybody just piles onto him. And while this fight, at first, you would have thought SKT would have lost it because Peanut just had no mana. Their ability to execute when it comes down to mechanics was superb and allows them to take this fight, take the Baron, and extend the game for who knows how long.
If he just sat behind that Jarvan like you were talking about and didn't get hit by the ultimate from Maokai, I think he might have been okay to just flash away from that one. But again, another small mechanical mistake. We need to see him protected by the rest of his team if we want to have Crown be in safety. And the hilarity that ensues once they take out Crown is just awesome because Ruler, he's hitting onto a Maokai, and Maokai's like gaining health as that's going on. Whereas Kalista, as I said before, so much lifesteal, so much room. Now he has the armor penetration item here at 6 items. Now this Kalista is getting out of control. Now the story is not about, you know, Faker's crazy fishes. It's like, how are they going to deal with this Kalista?
The tanks can't deal with her for sure. They need the long-range carries to deal with it, but they're too busy trying to stay alive, and they have not been successful at all for this game in doing that. Well, with this Baron, summoners still remain for SKT, which is the most impressive part out of that entire fight. Both carries from Samsung had to burn theirs, but both from SKT get to stay alive. Wolf stays alive, which means they can go for another flash play with his stun. Untara can do it as well. And that means that these carries are in such danger. SKT now have the opportunity to even go for a tower dive. If they go for a 1-3-1, group up, utilize teleports effectively, they can close out this game if they find the right angle, if SamSung is eager to give it to them.
Well, they're looking to go 3-1-1. Faker in the mid lane. Untara down in the bottom side. SamSung with a very defensive setup as 4 or 5 members in the mid lane. This open inhibitor is going to be the first target for SKT as they move in. Always attempting to get that Banshee's Veil off of Crown. Will be a big key for their engage.
Aru's good at catching kittens, but he hasn't been able to catch any fish this entire game. I guess for the first one where they try to go on a kill onto him, but when it really matters to keeping his mid laner alive, it's not just his responsibility. CoreJJ can do the same, but SKT's composition is not going to be capable of sieging without truly threatening a tower dive. So even though it looks great for them, the gold is still there for them. Remember that the fights that they have won are in open spaces where SamSung can't retreat. They have their base now. They have safety. SKT needs to take a different approach to these fights that has won them the previous ones.
They have the wave clear too. They can just pop this wave right here before the inhibitor, clean out the back ones, the ranged minions, and say, come at us. You want to go for a dive? That's your only option. You got to bring it inside the base if you want it. The slow push isn't working out just yet. Ruler taking a little bit of damage, that Righteous Glory, just to push him back and threaten at this point. The Cosmic Radiance is going to be popped here. They're going to go on to Kibe, but again, that's not used. Ruler taking a bit of damage. The Shockwave is going to catch. Bang, it's a big one. Can they actually get it? That dodge circle, but look at Crown in the back. He gets caught again, and that is exactly what they wanted. Faker, he stays alive somehow as well. He's still going down. Kibe takes him out, but it just doesn't matter. Bang, he's all by himself. They could never take out this Callista until the end. That's going to be the end of the game here, folks. Game number 2, SKT, somehow, some way, they pull it back.
They just have a laser onto Crown, and Faker once again finds the Chum the Waters, and then Ruler.
Oh, he's out of the fight, even if he's not dead. He can't go on a 1v4 right now, not with Bang still available. That's going to be the end of this Tristana, and the end of Shen, and potentially the end of this game. Somehow Kibe survives, but it just doesn't matter. Game number 2, as the Nexus falls, will be SKT's.
They fought with tooth and nail, and they succeeded. What an impressive display of mechanical skill from SKT, but SamSung drops the ball when it comes to protecting their composition. Their critical members were never alive. At no point did we see the composition truly survive for the 2v2 to live on and deal as much damage as was necessary to the backline. Ruler just jumping away so far, so many times. The max range of rocket jump, unable to return to the fight. His DPS was lackluster at best in this Tristana. But SKT, that's the story for this one. The fact that they are still alive, that final fish from Faker as they retreated into the potential Baron, that could have been it. That should have been it when it comes to SamSung. Another group, but the outplay going into mid lane where SamSung's decision-making faltered, dictated the remaining 20 minutes of the game, and SKT finds themselves now at a 2-0 lead and a demoralized SamSung that we just can't see how they're going to be able to bounce back from this mentally.
This is not the booth I wanted to see out of SamSung. Crown with his head down again. The chairs not even aligned. You know, it says a lot about where this team is as a group. They're just all over the place on the Rift, but also in the booth as a team. And that's even looking more demoralizing than an Ever 8 booth after they lost their 7th game in a row. I mean, these guys, it was a rough one, but they still have a chance. They still have a chance for the reverse sweep. They have to bring it back.
This is where it all started, that first pick onto Bang. This is where we were thinking SamSung might have a chance at this. Their composition is going great. The mistakes that we expected out of SKT to happen were happening. And they got a Baron as a result of this misplay from SKT. The double teleports were used. No wave clear into Baron. We thought, well, surely SKT can execute, but the final fish that caught Crown spelled the end for them. The fact that they were able to catch him here stalled out the game further and further, kept putting SamSung in unfavorable positions, and
the mechanics too.
Once again, Faker, I would say he gets the MVP. Somehow, he's finding ways to thread the needle, to catch the most important members of SamSung, which were just so flustered all game long. Never did they hold enough composure to recognize SKT's game plan when it came to team fights. They fell for it every single time, and that's how many battles it took for SKT to win. The patience was there, the mechanics were too, and this one was just the most beautiful of them all. Look at, so
Banshee's
why
popped
does
immediately.
Haru walk back? He needs to block the fish against Faker, but Orianna ends up tanking it, and that's the end of the fight.
Block the fish or block the Maokai ult from going through. You know, he blocked one of them, but then Crown stepped a little bit too far ahead, and that's what popped his Banshee's veil. But as you said, I mean, it's bigger to block the fish and get Crown into a better spot there. And again, you know, Faker with the highlight plays, but Bang was so well protected throughout the fights. I mean, even he gets shockwaved here, it just doesn't matter. You flash back, and then there's no opportunity to get onto the Kalista.
Where did he even throw this fish from? This was like a blind one that ends up hitting Crown. Sure, he goes down to Cuvée at the end, but that doesn't matter. Kalista stays alive. Too much lifesteal, and Tristana just jumps so far back, but she's not doing anything to Maokai. And the two-threat composition just doesn't pay off when you don't have the hardest engage and when your synergy as a team is not there.
So there you have it, guys, an almost 50-minute game. And Bang with the ridiculous amounts of damage definitely tells the story of how the team fights ended. But the 12.2K that Faker did doesn't really tell the story of how much effect he had in this game on the Fizz. We thought it was a big play to get in the face of Crown and go 1v1 and get more solo kills, but it turned out his fishes in the end game, at the late game, 50 minutes in, were a big part of the reason why they were winning their team fights.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, Game 3 looks rough for SamSung, as now maybe Ambition might be coming in.
Haru's leaving the booth. He's taking his... and that's also Ruler leaving the booth. That's a new AD carry there. We have lots of substitutions. Core JJ even with his stuff going into the bag. This is going to be a big replacement as we go into the commercial, guys.